If, as the curator, I'm allowed a favourite object, then this one comes close to being it. You can see it in the showcase below this screen, and it's 186 pages. It has about 8,000 lines of poetry, and it was the result of an intense period of writing by William's sister Dorothy and his wife Mary in February and March of 1804. So what's so special about this notebook? Well, for one thing, it's the most comprehensive account of Wordsworth's unpublished poems at that time. Wordsworth's poems were to be found all over in a number of notebooks, sometimes having been revised for a number of years. And Dorothy, when she's transcribing the poems for the notebook, writes in a letter, they are scattered about here and there, in this book and in that, one stanza on one leaf and another on another. And it contains some great works, almost reading like a greatest hits of his poems. This is the only manuscript we have of Wordsworth's Intimations Ode. It includes some of the great sonnets Wordsworth had been writing, and it includes the first 5 books of Wordsworth's autobiographical poem, The Prelude. But as well as containing these great poems, this manuscript tells a story of the relationship between William, Dorothy, and their great friend Coleridge. Their friendship had begun in southwest England, and after the Wordsworths moved to Dove Cottage in 1799, Coleridge brought his family north too, and settled in Keswick, just 13 miles north. Coleridge had been suffering very ill health, not helped by his severe addiction to opium, and it was arranged that in early 1804 he would go to Malta in search of better health and milder breezes. In the preparations for him to leave, he asked Wordsworth for a copy of all his unpublished poems at that time, and so this notebook is the one that was prepared for Coleridge to take to Malta with him, and as Dorothy said, to be his companion in Italy. Several packets of paper were sent to Coleridge prior to his departure. The pages show different types of paper was used, and they show the different hands at work in making the copy. And at the top of some of the pages, the numbers there are in the hand of Coleridge, perhaps an effort by himself to keep the unbound pages in order. After the last packet had been sent to Coleridge, Wordsworth then wrote him another letter. And typical of Wordsworth, the letter contained suggestions for revisions to the lines that he had only just sent. Coleridge left England on the 9th of April, and he sailed in the Speedwell, and it was part of a 35-ship convoy that sailed from England to the Mediterranean. And as Dorothy had hoped, the pages and the lines of poetry did provide a companion for Coleridge, and as he lay in his cabin on a night that was for once a little calmer, he read the poem that didn't yet have the title that we know it as The Prelude, then known as the poem to Coleridge. And Coleridge wrote in his own notebook, "Oh, bless you, all you, Mary, William, the babe, Dorothy, Sarah, and the little ones." When he was in Malta, Coleridge had the pages bound as you see them today. And then came the return journey, this in 1806, and by all accounts a terrible ordeal for Coleridge. And at one point their ship was boarded by Spanish privateers, and the consequence of that was that many papers, government papers and Coleridge's papers, were thrown overboard. When he got back to England, his state was rather poor, and he wrote in a letter, "I am shirtless and almost penniless. My manuscripts, excepting 2 pocket notebooks, either in the sea or taken back to Malta." But this somehow survived. And later that year, 1806, Coleridge then gave the notebook back to Wordsworth. So why is this a favourite manuscript? Well, as well as containing the magnificent poems, there are also stories, that give it extra meaning. If we can imagine that hurried preparation in the winter, 1804 in Dove Cottage, getting ready for Coleridge's departure. If you can imagine it, reading it in the cabin on that ship, his companion thinking of his family back home. There's the remarkable survival of the journey back to England, the papers thrown over, this one somehow survived. And then the fact that it becomes Wordsworth's again, and he uses it in preparation for future editions of poetry. So I hope you'll agree that it is a magnificent manuscript, and that it has the stories, and it has the poems.